If you are not legally protected in your business, you are leaving money on the table. Hey, I get it. The legal side of business can feel intimidating, but the good news is it doesn't have to be. If you want to build your business on a strong foundation, and if you want to know that your rights are protected when the unexpected happens with a client or a customer, then it's time to get legally protected. This means no more using free contracts that you downloaded off of the internet. This means partnering with a law firm that actually believes in your vision and can help you achieve it. This means legally protecting your brand so that no one can steal your good ideas. There are a lot of ways to grow and scale, but if you want to grow a strong business, it's time to get legally protected. If you're listening and resonating with this, then my signature service, the Legal Upgrade, just might be perfect for you. The Legal Upgrade is a straightforward, structured process to give your business the legal protection that it needs to thrive. Click the link in the show notes and schedule a call with me today. Hello and welcome to the Legal Upgrade Podcast. I'm your host, licensed attorney Christian Hammond. This podcast breaks down the legal side of business to reveal key legal strategies that can help you take your business to the next level. Please note that none of the following is legal, tax, investment, financial, or medical advice. Without further ado, let's get into the show. What do you do when you get a cease and desist letter? Cease and desist letters are one of those things that freak business owners out. So I thought it was the perfect topic to go over today because if you've been around here for a while, you know that I'm all about breaking down legal issues, demystifying them, and leaving you guys with some good strategies and just some awareness and some education. I see the hearts, I see the fire emojis that people are dropping into the chat. Yes, because it's all about demystifying and breaking down legal issues so that you guys as business owners can be more empowered, more informed, more aware of these things and prepared to deal with them. And if you hear background noise, I'm pretty sure my neighbors next door are working on some kind of construction project. So please excuse the noise, but welcome. Thank you for being here. Feel free to pop in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. This is also a great opportunity to grab a notebook, grab a pen, grab your iPad, whatever you like taking notes on, because this is going to be a super, super helpful live stream and episode. So break out your notebooks now. And if you've been in business long enough, you might have gotten a cease and desist letter before. And even if you have not yet gotten one, oh, hey, I see Atlanta in this chat. Welcome, Atlanta. And if you have not gotten a cease and desist letter before, this is going to be really helpful because these are things that every business owner should know. So let's get right on into it. And I think the first thing we have to address is what is a cease and desist letter? It's one of those things that has definitely gotten into the pop culture. You know, it's in pop culture. You might have seen it in movies or TV shows. You know, if you watch, I don't know, shows like Suits or whatever. So it's definitely in the popular culture, but like what actually is a cease and desist letter? And today we are going to go to class and I am going to read you the definition from Black's Law Dictionary. Now, if you've never heard of Black's Law Dictionary, if you're not a lawyer, you probably never have. It's kind of, it's like the lawyer's dictionary Bible. Black's Law Dictionary, at least traditionally, has been the go-to research for lawyers when lawyers need to define something. And I remember back when I was in law school, I will never forget this. I was sitting in class and so law school is really famous or maybe infamous for what's called the Socratic method. And basically in law school, the professors call on you at random and they just drill you with questions. And that is meant to prepare you for being in front of a judge, because when you go to court and you're an attorney, the judge can just drill you with questions and you're expected to know all the answers and you're expected to be super prepared and to know every case that you cited in your brief. So it's meant to prepare you for being in court. And so I was in class in law school, and I remember the professor asked a student a question, and he asked the student to define something from Black's Law Dictionary. And the student said, "I'm sorry, I actually don't have a Black's Law Dictionary." And the professor said, "You don't have a Black's Law Dictionary? Does nobody love you?" Oh my gosh. I know. Everyone in class was sitting around looking at each other like, oh my gosh, did he just say that? But that just tells you how serious lawyers can be about their Black's Law Dictionary. So, to define a cease and desist letter, of course, I had to start there. So, the definition of a cease and desist letter from Black's Law Dictionary: it's an order to prohibit starting or continuing a specific action stated in the order, used against a person or an enterprise. It's usually issued by a court or a government agency. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to go ahead and disagree with Black's Law Dictionary. Because we are sitting here as business owners talking about business. So we're not talking about the kind of cease and desist that's going to come from the government or a government agency. Today, we are talking about the kind of letter that would come from another business. And honestly, that's the most common type of cease and desist you are likely to encounter if you are a small business owner, entrepreneur, or even mid-level sized business. So we're going to be talking about the kind of cease and desist that you would get from another business owner, which is very different from one you might get from the government. You know, you can get a cease and desist from the IRS, the SEC, the FTC, any other three-letter agency, but that's very different from getting one from another business. So just wanted to draw that distinction. So since I'm going to go ahead and disagree with Black's Law Dictionary, or at least differentiate from them, I'm going to give you my definition of a cease and desist. And my definition of a cease and desist is three simple things. It's when someone tells you that they believe they have a right, they believe that you have violated that right, and they want you to stop doing that. Very simple. Three things. Someone else believes they have a right. They also believe that you have violated their right, and they want you to stop doing that. And they could be right or they could be wrong. It could be real or it could be just someone blowing smoke or doing too much. But at its core, a cease and desist is this notification. Someone out there letting you know that they want you to stop what you are doing. That's what a cease and desist is at its core. And I think it's really important to start there, because that means a cease and desist is a notification, which is very, very different from a subpoena or a court order. And this is the first thing that people tend to misunderstand about cease and desist. People oftentimes think that a cease and desist is a subpoena, or that it's a court order, that it has the power of law and can force you to do something or can force you to show up by a certain time. A cease and desist in and of itself does not have any actual power of law. A cease and desist does not create something that did not exist before. A cease and desist does not create legal rights. It's simply informing you that someone else thinks they already had some legal rights. That's a very, very important distinction, to understand that a cease and desist, very different from a subpoena, very different from a court order. And this is easy to misunderstand because a cease and desist usually has a deadline in it. It usually has some kind of threat of what's going to happen if that deadline is not met. And that can often lead people to think that a cease and desist is more like a subpoena or a court order, and they're actually not. A cease and desist doesn't have any actual legal power to do or create anything new. Now, it might be informing you of some legal rights that already existed that you might be in violation of, but a cease and desist doesn't create anything new. It's a notification. It's letting you know that somebody else wants you to stop doing something because they're unhappy about whatever you're doing. It's a notification. And so, since it's a notification, we're going to jump into my 3 strategies for dealing with and responding to a cease and desist letter. And my first strategy for responding to a cease and desist letter is do not panic. Do not panic. And the reason it's really important to not panic is because a cease and desist can be the starting point for potential litigation. A cease and desist is the starting point for potential litigation. And here's an analogy that I like to use. A cease and desist is like a ticket. It's like a train ticket. It's like a ticket to get onto a train, and the final destination of that train is a town called litigation. But very importantly, there are a lot of stops that train is going to make before it gets to litigation town. There are a lot of opportunities to get off the train before the train reaches its final stop of litigation town. There's a lot of stops that this train makes. This train makes stops called negotiation. This train makes stops called settlement. This train makes stops called diffuse the situation. So there are many, many stops that this train is going to make before it gets to litigation town. So just because you got a cease and desist does not necessarily mean you're going to end up in court. But it is the starting point for what could be potentially litigation. And that's why it is so important not to panic when that cease and desist letter comes in. Because when people panic, that's when I see business owners screwing things up. Because when they panic, they jump into action. Some people jump, to typing out a response and sending back another letter. Some people jump to calling the person up and telling them that why they didn't do anything wrong and justifying it and telling them all the reasons why this isn't true. Some people immediately jump to, bashing the person on social media and telling all their followers what happened, or, calling up all their clients and telling them what's happening. So people jump into action. And the reason that's a problem is because when it comes to litigation, once that cease and desist letter kind of comes in and lets you know that you have a ticket to a train where the final destination is litigation, everything that has happened related to that issue up until this point, and anything that might happen, be said, be sent in an email, or be written down afterwards, could potentially become evidence in a future trial. Now, again, we're not necessarily going all the way to litigation town, but if we do, all of these things, the emails, the DMs, the actions being taken, all of that could potentially end up being evidence. And when people panic and they spring into action and they start doing all these things, a lot of times business owners are inadvertently creating evidence that's just not great. Evidence that it would be better not to have laying around. And so the first strategy that is super important is do not panic, because panic tends to lead to actions that are not particularly helpful in this situation. And the reason that I like to frame it that way and always frame it as, hey, maybe we're not going to litigation town, but let's be prepared in case we do, actually goes back to another law school story. I guess you guys are just getting a lot of law school stories today. But when I was in law school, I had a professor for civil procedure Civil procedure is basically like the rules of court. It's the rules for how court works. And I had an awesome civil procedure professor. Shout out to Professor Campos if you are watching or if you ever watch in the future. I had an awesome civil procedure professor. And Professor Campos said something that always stuck with me. And he said, always prepare for trial. And what he meant by that is you might never actually go to trial for this particular case, but you should always be prepared for that possibility. You should always conduct yourself, do your research, do your homework, and you should always prepare in such a way that you know that you might end up going to trial. And what he meant by that is that a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are just kind of assuming that they're going to settle or just kind of assuming that they're going to get off at one of the train stops. And you might, but he always emphasized how important it was from a strategy perspective to be prepared to go all the way. So when I'm advising a client on how to respond to or how to deal with a cease and desist letter, I'm always keeping that in mind. I'm always keeping in mind the fact that what we say and what we do could maybe one day become evidence, and that is always informing the advice that I'm giving the client in that situation. And it all goes back to being in law school with Professor Campos, who taught me always prepare for trial, which is why strategy number one to dealing with a cease and desist is do not panic. All right, let's get into strategy number two. My second strategy for dealing with a cease and desist letter is to read the letter in a calm state. I want to double underline the phrase calm state. Because here's the thing with a cease and desist letter. A cease and desist letter brings up all those things that we hate about dealing with legal issues in our business. Because a cease and desist letter is an accusation. And none of us like to be accused. Whether we're innocent or guilty, none of us like to be accused. Like when you did it, you don't like being accused. And when you didn't do it, you still don't like being accused. Being accused is such an uncomfortable thing. And so getting that cease and desist letter tends to just take us to that place. It tends to just take us to that suboptimal headspace. And how you react in that moment really depends on your personality. Different personality types, right? Depending on your personality, you might be the defensive type. Your first instinct is to try to defend and justify yourself. This might be the person who immediately calls the person or immediately emails them back saying that you didn't do anything wrong and you're trying to explain all the reasons why you didn't do anything wrong. Some of you, your first instinct is to go on the defensive. Others of you, your first instinct is to jump on the offensive. And this might be the person who immediately jumps on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or whatever and puts this person on blast to all their followers and tells them what's going on, what's happening. You immediately jump on the offensive. Or you might not be much of a social media person. Going public like that might not really be your jam. But you might still go on the offensive in private ways. So maybe the cease and desist, is from, let's say, for example, you have mostly until this point been a subcontractor. So you don't tend to have your own clients directly. There tends to be somebody else, the prime contractor who has the clients, and then you are their subcontractor. And then let's say that over time you decide, I don't really want to be a subcontractor. I want to be out there getting the clients for myself. And let's say that, you decide to go pitch yourself to some of those former clients that that other company used to have back when they were the prime and you were the sub. And let's say the prime finds out about that. And, they send you a cease and desist saying like, hey, you're in violation of a non-compete, or hey, you're in violation of a non-solicitation agreement. And if you're the type of personality where your instinct is to go on the offensive, You might be the kind of person who immediately reaches out to all your clients and is like, hey, this is what's going on. And here's why I'm right. Here's why they're wrong. Here's why you shouldn't work with them. And it just kind of snowballs. That's what an offensive, that's what it might look like if your first instinct is to go on the offensive. And then still, third personality type, some of you, as soon as you are accused of something, your first reaction is to have self doubt. Your first reaction, even if you've done nothing wrong, is to be like, oh, well, maybe it was me, or maybe I did do something wrong, or maybe I did make a mistake, or maybe I didn't know. Your first reaction, even if you've done nothing wrong, is self doubt and self questioning. Well, regardless of which of these personality types you can most identify with, regardless of whether being accused makes you defensive, offensive, or self doubting, all of those are not a good headspace in which to be reading or receiving a cease and desist letter. All of those are not the right headspace because they're not going to allow you to process that information in a objective or constructive way. So my second strategy is to do whatever you need to do to calm yourself down so that you can read that cease and desist letter from a calm mental state. And, maybe you need to take a walk. Maybe you need to grab a cup of tea. Maybe you need to take 5 minutes. Maybe you need to put on some good music. But whatever you need to do to be able to read that cease and desist letter from a calm state of mind. And again, cease and desist letters come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are very valid. Some of them are completely ridiculous. But regardless, they need to be read and hopefully, as much as possible, understood. So at least you know what's going on and what you're dealing with. So my second strategy, regardless of your personality type, is to bring it down and read that letter from a calm standpoint. And then my third and final strategy, after not panicking, not freaking out, and reading the letter from a calm place, is to reach out to your business lawyer. And a good business lawyer is going to do several things. First, they're going to help you decide, is this real or is this fake? Meaning, is this cease and desist letter legit? Like this, hey, someone does have a legal right and I have done something wrong. Or is it just completely ridiculous? Somebody who's overstepping, somebody who's being a bully, someone who is just being overzealous and doing too much, or somewhere in between. And the reason that determination is so important is because when it comes to cease and desist letters, people bluff. People bluff. In my experience, people kind of bluff a lot when it comes to cease and desist letters. Now, personally, I don't believe in bluffing. I just really don't believe in it. I don't think it's a good legal strategy. And I don't think bluffing is a good legal strategy, and that's why I don't do it. And the reason I don't think it's a good legal strategy, I can just give you an example or an anecdote. I'm sure any parent here can relate to this analogy. Let's say you have a kid and the kid is jumping up and down on the sofa. And let's say you have told them many, many, many times that they are not allowed to jump up and down on the furniture. And on this particular day, you say, hey, stop jumping up and down on the sofa or else I'm going to take away your phone. And then let's say you don't follow through. They keep jumping on the sofa and you don't take away their phone. What just happened? That kid just called your bluff. They did not believe you. They did not take you seriously. They did not think you were actually going to follow through on that threat. And they called your bluff. And they were right. And what's the result going to be? Well, now they're going to know that you are not serious. They are going to know, that you were bluffing and they called your bluff and you're not that serious. And they're going to be more inclined to just keep jumping on the furniture from here on out. Well, just like dealing with a small child jumping on the furniture, I find that that's the same in legal situations. When you bluff, and you have no actual intention of following through on that, and the other person calls your bluff. Me personally, this has happened to me responding to a cease and desist letter. I have called other attorneys bluffs. And when that happens, when I think someone's bluffing and in fact they are, I lose some respect for them, honestly. I'm like, wow, you made this claim and you couldn't actually back it up. So I'm not a fan of bluffing. I am much more of the thought that if I'm going to make a threat, it's because I plan on following through on it, legally speaking, not like a criminal threat, but like a legal, procedure threat. I'm not going to do something like that unless I plan on actually backing it up. That's just my view on bluffing, the Christian strategy on bluffing. But going back to the cease and desist strategy, a really good business attorney, they're going to help you understand, is this real or is this fake? Is this a legit legal right? And have you done something wrong? And do we need to negotiate and make sure we can get you out of this situation with the least possible damage? Or is this just completely made up? Is this completely ridiculous? Is someone just really blowing a lot of smoke? A good business attorney is going to help you make that determination and just really sort out, the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. The second thing that a good business attorney is going to help you figure out is, should you respond to the cease and desist letter or not? Because again, sometimes, or maybe even many times, a cease and desist is legitimate. Either the other person has a very legitimate right, or there's a very legitimate misunderstanding going on here, and there are two legitimate points of view as to what happened for whatever the situation was. And the best strategy is to respond and diffuse the situation, work something out. And then there are other times where the cease and desist is so far outside of any grounding in legal reality. There are other times when the cease and desist is just so incredibly beyond anything that is actually legitimate or real. And in those cases, sometimes it's just not even worth responding to because, again, it's so far outside of anything even resembling real law. And then there can be times when you just don't even, or the best strategy is not even bother responding or humoring those types of just kind of far out things. But figuring out which is the challenge. Figuring out which situation you're in is the challenge. And that is exactly what your business attorney is going to help you work through. And then, of course, they're going to represent you and help you ultimately sort out whatever it is. So that is what I have for you guys today. I hope that was really helpful to just break it down, to really leave you guys empowered with knowledge about what a cease and desist is, what it's all about, kind of how the process plays out, and above all, to just demystify this process for you as a business owner, to peek behind the scenes into what's going on the legal side of business. So thank you guys so much for joining today. I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. The Legal Upgrade Podcast is a Bevel Law production. For more information about the Legal Upgrade, you can follow on Instagram at Bevel Law or find even more information on the website bevellaw.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please remember to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. See you next time on the Legal Upgrade Podcast.